A bail hearing was held today in Skowhegan for a man charged in the shooting death of 28-year-old Jaquan Humphreys of Massachusetts in Palmyra last year. 38-year-old Kareem Quattlebaum of New York was arrested in that state in October. Humphreys was killed in March. State police investigator Shauna Bowden took the stand today, testifying there was DNA from blood on a knife at the crime scene belonging to Quattlebaum. Bowden said there are inconsistencies in witness statements, but state police believe that is due to criminal liability in a drug-related homicide. The defense argues there is not enough DNA to prove probable cause that Quattlebaum is guilty, and he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The judge intends to have a ruling on bail by next week.